Welcome, and thanks for joining us for another episode of UDTV. How are you feeling today? Do you ever stop or slow down to just take a pause and ask yourself where you are? I'm not just talking about a surface question or where you're located or even how you're feeling at this particular moment. I'm talking about a deep look inward as well as around you to really see what you've been thinking, feeling, and ultimately doing. This is what defines where you are at. I talk a lot about how we need to create a map, or in other words, a massive action plan. A plan provides a clear path to where you want to go. We do this because if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Without a plan, how do you even decide what to do when unexpected circumstances or opportunities arise? How do we know what a right decision is? The real truth is if you don't know where you are, then you are unable to make a good decision because you are simply lost. How can we even decide where we want to go if we don't have any idea on where we are? The answer is taking a moment to pause, reflect, and do an assessment. There are many things we need to measure in life, and even more if you're living with diabetes. So today, Bob and I are going to discuss and share a few components from our 4 pillars assessments. We help you learn how to measure where you're at and then manage your choices based on the results, and then be able to make good decisions that will help you get where you want to go. This is a critical part of what we teach in our Foundations program. We really go deep to assess and understand our relationships, our beliefs, feelings, and the patterns or habits that impact our life. Those include our mindset, the nutrition, exercise, and recovery habits we have. So let's dig in and see how, by doing regular self-assessments, it will help us get clarity on where we are at. Now, remember, the content we discuss and share today is from Bob's and my personal experience and opinion, and is provided for your information and education purposes only. It's not intended as a substitute for medical, psychological, or any other professional advice. So remember, check with your doctor and healthcare professionals before you make any changes to your routines. Good morning, Bob. Where are you at?
I bought a new house. Just kidding. I moved to a nicer room. Hey, nice t-shirt, brother.
Oh, I love it.
Was that a good experience?
Oh my gosh. I can't explain how good it was. You know, being able to actually work and have the opportunity to play in the national championship mid-am for anyone basically, you know, over I think it's over 40. Over 25. Over 25. That is just a real privilege, right? The top for this year, the top 200 that qualified were able to play. And it's something that I'm actually planning on trying to get back to. And that definitely takes doing some assessing of where we're at and what I'm doing with my exercise.
In an event like that, how were your blood sugars? How did you manage your blood sugars during that? Because that's intense stress, right? You were traveling for that.
Yeah.
And it was over a week, right?
Yeah, it was. I loved it. Flew back to Ontario, and you have to do a few days of prep. You do some practice rounds at the course and try to get acclimatized to the time zone because it has a real impact on diabetes and your timing of eating and insulin and medications or whatever your circumstance is with diabetes. But routines, you know, I preach like a repeat, because my routines are what enabled me to manage it. So I literally, when I'm playing a round of golf, if I'm casual golf with you or my buddies, I don't need to do it. But when I'm in a competition and my focus can get so deep, I forget even where time is at sometimes. So I literally have to mark on my scorecard, dark green marking points after every 3 holes and a big circle around it so that I go blood sugar test. If I don't manage or assess where the fuel in my tank is, you end up in a low blood sugar. You run out of gas, just like a car. And in golf, you've seen me there where I've miss the blood sugar test and my blood sugar goes low, well, one missed shot can be whether you make the cut or not. And in diabetes, it'll take 3 holes to even get my sugars back, which ultimately means I'm out of the tournament.
Snack course.
Absolutely. So when I'm on the course, guys joke about the weight of my golf bag because it's full. It's a refrigerator. I'm talking, I've got my dextrose tabs for in case I do go low. I have fruit. I eat a lot of fruit. I even bring along my most favorite treats, which I get to have when I'm walking, because the walking actually causes my blood sugar to drop more than any other activity I actually do. And I can go into that later, but walking is the best for keeping blood sugar down. So I get to chew on some M&Ms, peanut M&Ms. Man, that's my kryptonite, right? So I get to have a few of those during the round. So I really have a lot of fuel to help me perform well.
How much water? Like, you're on the course for 5 hours, right? So
Yeah.
how much water in 5?
So I have right here beside me, I drink a thermos bottle of water, and I will go through probably 3 to 4 of these in a round, right? So it's just sipping, and I usually sip on it, and I will either have a light amount of like a Gatorade or an electrolyte powder in it, just to help keep the salt, even just a sprinkle of sea salt. It helps with your body's water retention, and it helps you perform way better. Hydration is critical success factor to being able to perform at any activity, whether it's just a walk around the block. You should carry a bottle with you.
It's fascinating to me to hear you chat about this, because most golfers, you just talk about their game, their clubs, their balls, the conditions of the course, the wind, right, et cetera, et cetera.
Or the straightening fluid. Or if you're out with just the boys having a weekend game, it's the straightening fluid. You know, that beer, and then the second beer, and all of a sudden it's like, where did the straight go?
Good helpful hints there, bud. Is there anything you eat like pregame? Is there like a meal that you eat pregame? More carbs, less carbs?
Well, what I tell you is that protein is my kind of go-to, and there's multiple sources of that. It doesn't have to just be meat or eggs. It can be beans. It can be many. Even on normal vegetables, they actually have protein in them. So, but the point is I try to make sure that I have a really good protein meal pre, and I will actually have more carbs than I would normally have just pre, because I want my sugars to start just a smidgen higher than what I would normally do. So I like to start around a golf at around 8 in the blood sugar world. So that people would look at that and go, you're crazy, it's high. But anywhere for me, anyways, even between 8 and 10, when I start, I'll be at 6 in literally 2-3 holes just because of the walking.
Interesting. Yeah. Good. Great talk, buddy. This is kind of a good lead into what we're talking about today, I think. So why don't we get into today? Thanks for that.
No, you nailed it right on the head. The whole concept for us as diabetics and as people who are living with diabetes, we need to be really clear that if we don't measure something, we can't manage it. And assessments are really what that's about. It's about us assessing where we're at in this particular moment. But one of the things that you have really been pushing hard in our foundations program, as we've been going through assessments with our participants, is time, and how we spend time, and how we create our form of life. Because ultimately, we're sharing here today a little bit about my golf adventure and my passion for a game, and how do I deal with that with diabetes. But life is really a game, right? And we have these chunks in life that we have to deal with. And we call it in our program our form of life, right? So before we get into the actual assessment, I think it's important we just sort of lay out the kind of the umbrella for it, and the panel's the umbrella. And that's form stands for our family and our friends. That's the F in form. The O is our occupation, our work, our wealth, the time that we're out there doing what we need to do to survive. Our R is that recreation, the health and wellness that we're doing with regards to us physically.
Adventure.
And then adventure, fun. The thing I love that you teach the best is how do we make it fun and an adventure, right? And then the last part of our form is the mindset and our motivation that we have, those reasons we keep doing what we're doing for self-growth and education and other things. So that's kind of the big chunks that we would talk about. But Bob, maybe start out with let's just talk a little bit about the time that we choose to invest or spend in a day and how important that is in our assessing our form of life.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting when you take a look at our lives, right? Our lives are made up of nothing but time, and it's limited time. So I think the last time I checked, I had something like 1,300 weeks left on the planet, which is shockingly low.
Bob, that you and I've talked a lot about this, right? 53.
Yeah.
How old are you, Bob?
62.
Right on. So, as you know, what I get most infuriated about is when I do my quarterly checkups at the doctor. And that for inevitably I get told I'm doing really well, but remember, you got to fight because the diabetes is going to take 15 years off your life. So that technically makes me older than you, right? Which I do not like, right? But this time, I think, is where we're going today. And I'm so excited for you to talk and dig into this time and investment of time, because 25 years is 1,300 weeks.
That's
and
right.
We're going to choose to spend it or invest it.
Yeah, and that's if we manage our health properly, right? That's if we manage our health properly, and also if we get lucky. Got to have a little bit of luck in there. It's like a hockey game, right? Got to get a bounce of a puck. So if we get a bounce of a puck, and we manage our health, and we're going to get more time, and it's going to be more exciting time. We'll be able to have more adventure. We'll be hopefully not relegated to a walker that fast or a cane that fast or just lying in bed, which many people do at the end of their lives, right? So it's all about the quality of life as we go forward. But if there's 52 weeks in a year, there's 168 hours in a week, and much of that is spent sleeping. So when you get down to the brass tacks, if you take away your commuting to work, your sleeping, and all the personal stuff you do, laundry, brushing your teeth, washing your hair, personal hygiene, et cetera, you're left with not that many usable hours in a week. And that's what's exciting for me to talk about today is how are we using that free time, that variable time, the time that we get to actually control. Most of us can't control our work day. Most of us have to sleep 6, 7, 8 hours a night, et cetera. But there is this variable time that we choose to do certain things.
Well, really well said. I think I took a course one time and it was all around time management. And in that course, they talked about 3 main segments, and you sort of, for our viewers, spoke to them. First being 8 hours of sleep, right? In that, or rest and recovery, whichever way you talk about it. That's optimal. For me, I need 7. That's I purr like a kitten. After 8, I start to actually get sluggish. But the point is chunk 1. Chunk 2 is our occupation, our work that we do to live, whatever those responsibilities are. Let's just say we have those, and it might be self-employment, it could be a job, could be school, it could be whatever, but it's what we're doing for progress is maybe a good word. Then the last component, the variable time that you've talked about, I think that's where we really get to invest for the progress of moving our occupation forward, moving our health forward, relationships forward, whatever it is that we desire in our ideal form of life. That 8 hours, we better use it wisely.
Yeah, so 24 hours, you put 8 hours sleep, right? Then an hour on top of that for personal time to get up, et cetera. You're at 9 hours. And then if you work during the day, that particular day, you're looking at another 10 hours. Some people 11 hours, some people 12 hours, depending on your commute. So even if you're at 19 hours a day, there's only 24 hours in the day.
That's right.
If you're at 20 hours, you're only looking at a variable time of 4 or 5 hours in a day and sometimes much less. If you have a child at home or children at home, that flexibility goes right away, real quick.
It's true. Yeah, I remember the time in the years as you do with with Meeks and your daughter, and me with Brandon, my son, and the hockey as an example. We're two Canadian guys, hockey players ourselves, and I look at the hours that I had to squeeze in a workout, a um, proper eating, different types of sleep got cut way back, and that there's not many people that are getting a full 8 hours of sleep, right? At least not the ones that I know that have really achieved lots in life.
True,
So,
true.
what do you think would be the breakdown of just the average person's choices, such as routines or the chunks within each of these areas that people are spending on it? And maybe there's some things that we could talk about from a diabetic point of view, but with just life as well, about how we can just do slight modifications that creates net time for us to be able to really compound the investment of our time into things.
Well, there's a massive shortage of time in people's heads. That variable time is very small. And it's interesting when you look at the statistics and see what people are actually doing with that time. A big hunk of it is actually spent in front of the TV or spent in front of the computer doing recreational things, or it's spent in front of their phones, right? And so there's a massive amount of people's variable time is spent in front of a video of some sort, catching up on the news, wondering what the heck's going on with their favorite favorite shows on television. So if you take a look at your health often gets pushed, in my experience, right down to the bottom of the list, because we're doing okay right now, right? So instead of planning for our meal tomorrow or meals for the rest of the week, we're doing something right now that feels good in the moment. And that's a major mistake. That's doing what's urgent, perhaps, but not important, that Covey would say. So we spend our time in quadrants, right? And there's the urgent, which takes our time right now. And then there's the important, which get pushed off. It always seems to get pushed off. And our health, nobody's going to argue the fact that our health is not important, but the urgent overrides the important.
Yeah. I think, well, bluntly, my story is one where I thought I was invincible before I became a diabetic. And I worked out like a fiend. I was in great shape. I spent a lot of time on that because I was young, mid-20s, and just with what I was doing. But I heard a great saying, is that health is a crown that only the sick can see. But the truth is, we as the human condition seem to spend our health to get wealth, which means we will end up having to spend our wealth to try and get our health later. So
that's a losing strategy, because once you lose your health, to get your health back again is a bad strategy.
No, and I think a little bit of my story is, because you've journeyed with me for 30 years in my whole diabetic journey, right? You yourself have suffered and struggles with insulin resistance, and I've many family members as well. But the fact is that the little things and choices we do along the way are like the straws built up on a camel's back until the one straw that was put on caused it.
Yeah.
And you and I were just talking with a gentleman last week, and he'd been to the doctor, right? And he's basically been told very clearly, you have to change now. If you do not change, you're going to die. It's that simple, right? Mm-hmm. So why is it that we don't do some assessments along the way, and we only wait until a doctor says, do or die?
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful words.
Yeah. It has a lot to do with our brains, the way our brains function. So if there's no immediate threat, our brains, our minds, our mindset is everything's all right. There's nothing around. There's no tiger going to attack me? I'm good. I'm feeling good right now.
Right.
It's only when we get the call from the doctor or we feel that pain or all of a sudden we can't sleep anymore or whatever it is, right? The wake up call that our brains start to click into gear and start giving us grief. We start to worry about it. We start to be concerned about it. And thus maybe that leads to action. But if there is no immediate threat, then we have the tendency just to do what we do.
Okay, so that then brings up the point. How do we use an assessment to create an awareness so that we're able to make a good decision? As I said when I introduced us today, that moment to pause and to reflect, to assess what's going on in my mind. What am I doing to fuel this body? What am I going to do to move my body, right, in a positive way? And then lastly, what am I going to do that really motivates me? It's fun that you talk about and those types of things. Because if we don't have 15 to 60 minutes in our day to create a routine that will bring us the relationships that we want, to give us health, we don't have a life.
Yeah, our lives are largely dependent on habits. Our lives are largely driven by just the things we've set up. So I've got to go to work today. I've got to pick up the kids because they're enrolled in football or hockey or baseball, right? So it's something that's been set for us, and we just do it rather than looking at all the things that have to be there and then deciding on what we're going to do. I'll give you an example. And your question was about assessments. One of the ways we do that very effectively is to just, in a very honest and truthful way, say, how much time am I spending on certain things? So how much time am I spending on my exercise? Like, how much do I walk? How many times does my heart go over 100 beats per minute? And how many times to go over 120 beats per minute, 130, 140? What's your max, by the way?
This morning, my max, I hit 168.
168. And that, a lot of people don't understand that, is the heart needs to be exercised. So, and there's it's important you know that. I don't have the stats right now. Mine is about 160 is my max for my age, right? So how many times did my heart get up to 160? Because you want to max that heart out, you want to exercise that heart this week, and the answer is 0 times. It's got up to 134 about 7 or 8 times, but that's not 160, right? And so in my plan, my health plan, I've got to get that heart rate up to 160 at least 3 times a week, 4 times a session, 3 sessions a week. So I have to do that a minimum, right? So that's the measurement. That's the measurement of time. It's a numerical things. Let me give you another couple of examples. For this has to do with your former life. How much time have we spent quality time with our wives or our significant others this week? And Covey told us to measure our lives in terms of weeks. So we do want it to be, of course, days and hours sometimes, but in terms of weeks, how many times have you been really connecting with your wife this week? Like, how much time did you spend on that? Was it 15 minutes, 10 minutes? Was it an hour? Studies show that when you're parenting, the quality time a parent spends with their children is less than, would you guess, buddy, a day?
So my guess, I would say is somewhere in the 5 to 10 minutes.
You're brilliant there. It's less than that, less than 5 minutes a day. Lots of studies show that most parents spend less than 5 minutes of quality time with their children or their child. And the truth is,
this is the difference, based on what you just said, I agree, because where's the definition of that quality time? So someone would say, well, I sat beside him on the couch for an hour watching the hockey game. That's quality time, which in truth could be quality time if that's what you both talked about and you said, hey, let's go, we're going to get to watch McDavid and we're going to have experience and you're chit-chatting through it, that can be valuable quality time. But what you're really alluding to, it's the intentional side of life and having with intention doing something. Is that correct, Bob?
Exactly, where you're really connecting with that person on an intimate level, where you're both excited about the conversation, you're both learning from each other, growing with each other, laughing with each other, having an adventure together, those sorts of things. Nice. And that's quite an interesting stat, right? About how much husbands spend with wives or wives spend with husbands, and that kind of thing, especially in their busy lives. It's quite low for most people. And it's so exciting when people take the initiative to actually make it happen on an intentional basis during the week. And that's the power of being human, is right. We have the ability to change.
Snap. In a snap. And that's, I think, back to an assessment, why we want to keep coming back, because these points are really critical, but it really comes back to the evaluation of, what am I going to do about it? Where am I at? Am I happy with that 5 to 10 minutes? Is that all I've got? Or is there something that I can just change the paradigm slightly? And let me use this as an example. This morning, I got up and I went for a walk, but I had my earbuds in. And I was able, in my hour walk, to deal with my education component. I listened to a program that I wanted to listen to. When that was done, I was able to catch up on after I'd done the education, I allowed myself to catch up on the social media aspects of what I had to deal with to get me going. But I first did the education because that was the big rock. Then I said, I'll use the last 5-10 minutes of my walk and I'll just quickly go through, scan, make sure family, friends, all that other stuff, it was done, caught up. You know what I mean? I text, whatever it was. But the point is, I created net time by doing something that I could use the technology that enslaves us to free me. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a choice again. Is it intentional, or is it an investment, or am I spending? I was able to bundle my time of what could have been called work, right? Because it was education that was going to benefit something that we do and others, other businesses that I'm involved in do, that will help that company. But the truth is, I bundled the exercise. It didn't cost me an extra. And that's, I think, a mistake we make a lot when we're assessing time, is I don't have enough time to invest in my health right now. My kids need me, this needs me, etc. Well, great. You've walked them, you've taken them to a hockey practice. What are you doing now? Are you standing there drinking coffee? Or are you watching by just walking laps around the ice rink? Are you doing something to create net time? Now, that's how I have done things. I'm not saying everyone has to do that, but what are your thoughts on that way, in an assessment way of life? How do I incorporate my big chunks into the short time we have?
Well, yeah, you're exceptionally aware of time and how fast it goes. And that's, you've spent a large part of your recent career on self-development things. So you've invested time in self-development. I'm gonna be the best person I can be. You've said that.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, you've learned a ton about time, about use of time, about intentionality, etc. But I don't think a lot of people have had the opportunity or made the opportunity to do those sorts of things. Again, what you've just said is very motivating. It's like, I think people listening to this could say to themselves, I've got an opportunity here to control my life. I've got it was by controlling my time, by being aware of how I'm using my time. And a good example is people that commute to work. Is the radio on, listening to news, which is somewhat entertaining, largely depressing, and maybe not even truthful in many cases, versus doing something else in the car that could be productive, i.e. reading a book, listening to a book, right? And doing some self-development. So I think I think the takeaway from this, my friend, is time is a fleeting asset that we have. It goes very fast, and it just goes unless we intentionally design what we're going to do with it during the day, week, month, year, and life too. Yeah.
I want to really support you on that, because I think when we're talking about assessments, and we have many, we have a 4-pillar assessment where we talk about our mindset, our thinking, our belief structure, how that drives our emotions, and then ultimately our actions. We also have an assessment about what are we physically doing with our food? What are our choices we're making? How do we go into that? And what are the great substitutions where we're not lacking in our taste, we're not lacking in that, but we're just driving nutritional value and the ability to manage weight and strength and so many things with fuel. Third thing is our movement, like I just talked about. That assessment of what am I doing physically? It only takes 15 minutes. You don't need to do, like, my workouts are 30 minutes. That's what I do. They're high intense interval training that I do. Plus I walk or I golf or do other things. But I'm talking about my gym rat time are short and intense. It's a better use of time, right? Yep. As you said, we got to get the heart rate up. If you don't work the muscle and create resistance or pressure on it, it never grows stronger because it's already strong enough. You have to push it to be able to pull it up your health level. And then lastly, it's that recovery. And that's the part that most of us in our society, with the lies of the hustle. We got to hustle. If you'll sleep enough when you die. How many times in my younger years did you hear me say that when I was building businesses? Well, it almost did. It almost got me, right? So that is one of the biggest lies of our modern age now, is that it's a badge of honor that you go without sleep, that we don't take time to meditate, to just do some deep breathing. Like literally a minute in a day will change everything. So these are little things that we can assess in our life, the 4 areas of our life that we can assess, what we call our pillars or the big rocks that impact everything you do. I don't care if it's your work. I don't care if it's your recreation. I don't care if it's anything in life, your relationships, they impact it. So I think that's an important factor for us as we're wrapping this up, to realize that a pause, to take and say, okay, where am I at? I didn't sleep well. Well, unfortunately, the sleep time's up sometimes for us. And I have to be aware and love on myself and realize I'm not going to have as much juice. So maybe I might have to modify a few things that I do in the day. And that's okay, right? But that awareness alone will help us make better decisions. Our kids are coming at us in our communication to say, hey guys, Dad didn't sleep well. I'm a little bit more tired than normal. So here's what we're going to do. I need to create some energy. Let's go for a walk. Let's walk to school or whatever it is. And then we can go into the science and all that. And we do that in our program. But I just wanted you to maybe, with your remarks on how would you recommend our viewers, and what are the key questions that you would ask to assess where you're at the beginning of a day?
Take a look at how you're going to use your time today and figure out what your variable time is. Where's the variable time, the thing that you can actually control and create your day. I'll give you an example for today. I've got lots of variable time tonight. So from 8 to 9 o'clock, I'm doing my week shopping. So later on today, probably 4:30 to 5, I'm going to be creating my menu for the rest of the week. And then my daughter and I are going out shopping at one of her favorite shopping spots. She wants to go out. She likes this, right? So kind of killing a couple of birds with one stone. I've done the meal plan for the week. I'm going to go to this place to shop where there's nobody around, hopefully. We're made tonight at night.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to do it with my daughter. So we're going to create this conversation in the car, conversation while we're shopping. We're going to be doing something together that's both, she's an athlete too. So she'll be buying for herself. We'll be sharing recipes, sharing ideas, but just connecting to on a deeper level as well. So I'm kind of trying to maximize that time
Nice.
on several levels.
Well done, Bob. But net timing is something that we talk a lot about, and how quite often, I hear it all the time, and myself even, where I'll catch myself going, it's just too much on the go. And then that's when I have to ask the question, is what I'm doing right now important to help move the needle on what I really want to do?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And The One Thing is a great book that I read, and it has an amazing question. And it's the shortest self-assessment you can do and apply to anything. What is the one thing I can do right now that by doing it will make everything else easier or even unnecessary? So that is all about what you're talking about with net time. But really realize you are going to invest this moment or you're going to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the choice that we make in the moment. So that would be my tidbit there in it. And we dig more into it in our programs.
And my answer to that very interesting assessment piece is eat. I've got to eat right after we hang up.
Nice. That's so true. You guys, and all of you watching, as I close here, I just want you to realize one thing. Do one thing that's going to help and challenge your mindset, that's going to help you understand that what you believe drives your emotions and creates your motion. One thing that you could substitute in your food. Example, if you're drinking a lot of pop as a diabetic diet, I would encourage you, take the first step and move to a soda stream. It's carbonated, you can add a flavoring, but the truth is way better for you health-wise. It's a small tweak, but you still get a similar experience. Exercise, 15 minutes. Walk, get up and down off the couch 10 times in the commercials. Something that gives you a combined 15 minutes of movement a day. It's small steps that create uncommon results.
Here's a couple more. Set up a date with your wife. So call a restaurant, organize a walk, an adventure in a park somewhere you haven't gone before. Take her on a date.
Nice.
That might be something fun to do. And call a friend that you haven't talked to in a while and tell them how important you are.
Right on.
They are to you.
Relationships are everything in our form, right? Family and friends.
Yep.
The other next thing too, in our occupation, realize that the science has shown that micro breaks, I'm talking 1 to 5 minute breaks, where you just push back from the computer, get up, walk, get a glass of water, literally do 1 minute of deep breathing at work. A micro break every hour, change your life. Honest truth. Recreation, that's kind of combined there. One thing. And then obviously education, motivation, do something fun, as Bob said. No matter what, you got to do something that charges you up. Right? So I am really grateful, guys, for your time today. And I want to invite you to journey with us. I want to build your uncommon foundations of health. Together, we can create your map, a massive action plan that's going to build the foundations that will improve your energy and health, starting right now. Our Foundations program and community will provide you with a revolutionary and science-based approach towards your diabetic health. We're going to help you consistently take small steps that create those big results. As a diabetic, it'll lower your A1C. You're going to lose weight, gain strength, and ultimately improve your ability to live your ideal form of life. So just click the link below, book a free health strategy session with myself. I just want to thank you for joining us today. And remember, click the subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss any episodes of UDTV. Most importantly, remember you're not alone. Together we can create your success formula to live your uncommon diabetic life. I really look forward to meeting you in your free health strategy session. So until next week, be uncommon.